I am a passionate student of social media, and I address it right up front because people have a real hard time with, and I also agree, of being an expert in social media. I don't think there are really experts in social media. I mean, Guy Kawasaki, Chris Brogan, some of the big guys maybe, but we're all students of social media because it's all changing all the time. I spoke recently for Greater Cincinnati HR Association. They were like, we want to know the future of social media. I'm like, you know, if I could tell you the future of social media, I'd be making a lot more money and I wouldn't be here right now, because nobody knows who's going to replace Google or Facebook or whatever. So we're all passionate students of social media. Again, I started Cincinnati Women, or I was one of the founders of Cincinnati Women Bloggers. I have a corporate marketing background, and I think that's the main thing coming out of this, that I took corporate marketing background and then learned the social media tools and have done it now for my business, which is Teacher Girlfriendology. And I also work with other clients. I work with a social media agency, and we work with, right now I'm working with the UPS store, and I've worked with Kroger and Truvia, and I just did a Biz commercial, and you know, I work with all kinds of brands because it's funny how bloggers now are getting involved with brands and things like that. So, and my name is Debba. People like think it's misspelled Deborah, but it's Debba. And I'm at Girlfriendology, if you guys tweet about anything like this, to say something positive, hopefully. This is kind of my background or my experience in social media, because I do this full-time, and full-time in social media means like all the time. I have 22,000 Twitter followers, and sorry guys, but I block most men under the Girlfriendology account just because that's my brand. It's a women's community. I tweet things like, hey girlfriend, put on your favorite pair of boots and go kick some butt, or whatever, you know, but it's a girlfriend, it's a female brand. And that's one thing I want to talk about in building your brand, of knowing what your brand is. My brand is, I have built a women's community online, and so I stick to that. I delete guys from Facebook. I have 15,000 female Facebook fans. I deleted my husband. I felt bad about that. He was just being supportive. On Twitter, I had to unfollow The Real Jesus. And I felt really odd about that one. My dad's a minister. It was very strange. I was like, okay, can't follow him. It's a guy. So on Facebook, I have built that up. And it's awesome in Facebook because you can see some of your impressions and things like that. So I get 20 to 80,000 daily post impressions on that. So it's a great way of building your brand and using that. Have several online communities that are growing this brand of mine. Clout, you may have heard of, is a score that kind of measures all your social media together, and it's just clout.com, and you know, who knows if it means anything at all. You know, I think that I don't think it's Justin Bieber, but it's some like celebrity is 100 in clout, and I think it's interesting. I was in Vegas for Blog World Expo, and there's a hotel there that uses your clout score, and if you have a high enough clout score, you get high roller status. So businesses are starting to use your social media scores to offer you special deals, special promotions, things like that, which I think is very interesting. Twitter Grader and Alexa and things like that. So that's just kind of who I am and why I am up here talking about this. This is kind of the social media platform. I mean, there's everything out there. And obviously I didn't know from this group, you know, there are people I'm sure at all ranges that are pretty experienced and some that may not be. And so it's overwhelming. I mean, there's just so much stuff out there. When I go to the conferences, and I go to a lot of the conferences, these are some of the examples. Pretty much everyone is pretty comfortable saying Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn are the big guys. And if you have opportunities or your audience is somewhere else, then you go there. And so that is one thing we're going to talk about, is just finding where your audience is and how to approach them there. Facebook, you guys probably all know this. I put this up there to tell like how many people are on Facebook, because I was at a conference recently and somebody raised their hand and they're like, really, do I need to do Facebook? You know, it takes a lot of time. Are that many people really on there? I was like, yeah, they are. They're all on there. The average person, average user spends 55 minutes a day on Facebook. And that is scary. And my husband is one of the bad ones at it. He actually gave it up for Lent at my pressing him to do that. Because, I mean, he's like a Facebook addict and people are on there. So it's pretty huge, obviously. I'm sure, is everybody here on Facebook? You guys are all on Facebook, everybody's on Facebook. Aside from my mother, which I don't want her to ever be on Facebook. But I think this is interesting. I think it was Mashable that did the study of 48% of 18 to 34-year-olds check Facebook when they wake up, 28% before they even get out of bed. I mean, that's huge that you do that. Okay, and I will tell you that you use facts like this when you're starting to build your social media strategy. So I'll tell you later on how we're going to use that. Twitter, again, is anybody not on Twitter here? And Twitter isn't as universal for some. Yeah, I figured that this kind of crowd would probably be on Twitter. Twitter it is what it is. It's huge. Also, it's not as big, obviously, and it's mainly mobile, but it's a great way of staying in touch with people. LinkedIn, you know, is the world's largest professional network. I talk a little bit about LinkedIn just because I think sometimes we forget about it because we're like playing around on Twitter. It's more social to be on Twitter and it's more fun to be on Facebook and things like that. But if you're promoting a business, if you're trying to network and connect with people professionally, you do need to be on LinkedIn. So you do need to get out there and see what's going on. If you're looking for people for jobs, obviously LinkedIn is the great one because it's professional and you can find like passive recruits. So people that may not even be looking for a job, you can go find them and connect with them on LinkedIn. So it's a great way. And I'll just tell you, since you know it's early morning and I appreciate you guys being here. If you have questions along the way, let's just talk. I mean, we can cover whatever you need to cover. YouTube, I just bring this up because YouTube is also social media. It's also sharing information back and forth, and it's also used. It's the second largest search engine next to Google, and it's growing like crazy. And video is an awesome way of building your brand and your business because people like to see your face, and people like to connect with you. On LinkedIn, I think it's interesting that if you have a smiling portrait, you get a 70% better response rate than if you just are like boring picture or you're off by a tree and no one sees you. You really connect with people through social media. We get to know each other. And I have had people, I taught classes for job seekers on LinkedIn, and there were some that were like, well, they'll discriminate against me based on if I'm different from them in my picture. It's like, you know what, they'll discriminate on you if you walk into the room anyway, if that's how they operate. You know, you have a better opportunity of connecting with people when you can see them face to face, and YouTube is a great way to do that. It's just, it makes a personality. So this is what we're going to cover, and again, if you have some other questions and other things we want to cover, let's go for it. We only have 45 minutes, so that's why I was like trying to cram it all in here. Just kind of the process, and this is like how to launch and get your business and brand on social media and how to build your business through that. So some of you that we talked earlier, you already have your businesses in social media. We're going to talk a little bit for some that may not, just to cover the learn, listen, launch, get in the conversation, to know your goals and brand, to build your community. Actually, this is what I usually talk about when I go to conferences, is building community, because I've been able to do it with mine, and I've done research on other communities, and I'm just really passionate about it because there's such an opportunity. If I can do it and having no like corporate budget, you can do it. It's just taking a lot of time and some dedication. Getting to know your community and how to grow and manage your community. Again, I have all these Twitter followers and Facebook followers. Well, yeah, it's kind of crazy when it comes to managing it. So we'll talk a little bit about tips that I've learned, and if you have tips, please throw them out there too. Learn, listen, and launch. As we talked about when I was, given the numbers on Facebook and things, social media is not going away. I know some people would like it to, but it's not. It's an awesome way to connect. Now we expect community. Now we expect dialogue. Now we expect brands to listen to us and respond. Can you imagine that we used to like write complaint letters and send them, hello dear, my friend's here. So it's not going away. This is how we communicate, and this is what we expect. You do need to observe and connect and read. It's kind of scary sometimes when you're just getting out there, or when you're getting out there for a brand, because you really do need to know what to say and what not to say and how to do it. I mean, we all have, boundaries in what we want to say about our business or our brand and things like that. We need to really observe what those are in the context of social media. One thing I would recommend is conferences and offline meetups. We were talking earlier about Columbus having some meetups. Tiffany Odutoye just had the conference that was Beyond Social 101, which was a great conference that was here and is coming back with some other conferences. So any way that you connect with other people on social media, I will tell you that I go to these conferences and I learn so much from just talking to people in the hall. And I'm sure that will be the same today, just having conversations with people. So get out there and meet other people that are doing social media. It's such an amazing community that will share ideas. It's not a competitive situation as much anymore. I mean, I think that we all kind of take our own away from conversations on social media, so everyone loves to share, so it's a great thing to do. There is a great video, and I didn't want to take 4 or 5 minutes out of this presentation. If you would like, for some reason would not let me change it off yellow. It's at bit.ly, bit.ly/ and then I use the hashtag for this, which is DMSW and then revolution. And what that is a video that, that's just a short link that will take you to this video called Welcome to the Revolution. And it's pretty amazing. If you have to do a presentation to anybody in management or something like this that doesn't understand social media and how big it is, show them this video, because it's like 1 out of 6 marriages is now, based on an online relationship. And, if Facebook were a country, it'd be the 2nd largest, or, behind China. I mean, it just gives all these facts that really, really show how big social media is. So I would check that one out. It's called Welcome to the Revolution. That hashtag, or that short link will take you there also. You need to know your strategy and goals and know your brand. When I started to build Girlfriendology, I knew what my brand was. I had to have a positive women's brand and community. That meant that I couldn't go on there and complain about things and get snarky about things and be mad at the cable company and things like that, because that was not part of my brand. I have my own personal Twitter account that I can use that for. But for my brand, I knew that I had to build it. And you really do need to sometimes take some time off and just think about what your brand is and what you will and won't do in the context of your brand and social media. And then I put ready, fire, aim. I think that so many times, especially on entrepreneurs, we're always waiting to get it all right, to get the Facebook page just perfect, to get everything just perfect before we move forward, and it holds us back sometimes. So do it as best you can, get it out there and continue to refine it and learn from it. So don't be like, just stuck wondering, what you should do and do. Get out there and try it. I'm a firm believer in getting out there and trying things, and social media, you can do that. You also can go look at everybody else's that's doing things similar to you and see what they're doing. You were talking about the coffee shop. It was like, what a great example. You can go look at coffee shops all over the world and see who's doing a great job, and you can borrow their ideas. So go out there and don't be afraid to do that. People will pretty much share a lot of their information and experiences with you. Get in the conversation. Social media is really considered a conversation. You know how we used to publish websites where we just, like, it was a brochure online, and this is what you get, and this is all you get, and this is, that's it. We talk, you just listen. Well, we've given up on that. We now are in dialogue, and that's what social media is all about, and that's the power of it, and that's why it won't go away, because now we have a voice, we like to be heard, and we're not gonna shut up. So it's all about conversation now. It's about networking and connecting. You do have to get out there. I tweeted one day, I quit my job 2 years ago, and I am so happy doing what I'm doing. Just putting out there that obviously I'm trying to say my brand is going well. I like what I'm doing. Maybe you should check out what I'm doing, things like that. Well, within 2 minutes, I had an editor contact me on Twitter and say, have we done an article about you yet? So you never know who is listening, and you never know who potentially could be out there. There have been sales that have been made just by making a tweet. There have been jobs that have been given. I know people that were hired just because they were on social media and somebody had followed them and saw that they liked their voice. So you have to know that when it goes out there, it does go out there. You know, what happens on Facebook stays on Facebook and everywhere else. But it's a conversation, and we're expecting that now. We don't want to just listen and take it that way. I mean, there's all kinds of examples of conversations. One analogy is it's a party. There's a guy, I can see him, but I can't remember his name. He does a whole analogy on YouTube about you go to a party and you don't go, buy my used car, buy my used car, buy my used car, buy my used car. Because no one's going to talk to you at the party. You're going to be stuck off on the side, and other people are going to have conversations like, hey, I like your boots. Well, where'd you get that? Well, what, have you tried this restaurant? What did you do? You're having conversation. You're not necessarily talking about your brand. You're not necessarily talking about your business. You're having a conversation. And then, oh, by the way, what do you do? What? Oh, I saw on Twitter that you did. I mean, you start to get to know each other, but you're having a conversation. Chris Brogan, who is one of the big guys in social media, has said that in social media, you should be talking about other people 80% of the time and yourself only 20%. I agree. I will be the first to say that I don't always follow that because I'm promoting my brand pretty much. And I want to promote my brand, and I'm kind of passionate about it, so you can't really shut me up at times on it. So, but you need to be able to have that dialogue and that conversation. People will say, social media is free. Yes, in some ways. It is dang time consuming though. So we really do need to learn how to do it and to do it well and to manage our time. So we're going to talk about that. A friend of mine's husband was so hard trying to convince me that social media had nothing to do with the B2B world, and he did not care for it, and it was just all a waste of time, and he just wanted to just put me in the ground for doing social media. And I was like, okay, you work with automotive companies. They do plastics for automotive companies, yes. And I'm like, Scott Monty is one of the big guys at Ford. I know where he's at this weekend. I know what he's doing. I met him at a conference. I tweet with him. I've DM'd with him. I have an in at Ford Motor Company because I've gotten to know him through social media. And you're selling to Ford. Wouldn't you like to have that little insight? I mean, your competition is online. Your clients are online. Your friends are online or in social media. Your job applicants, your competitors, they're all out there in the conversation. If you choose not to be in the conversation, that's your choice. And that's what I told him. If you choose not to be in it, that's fine. Know that there's a conversation going on. There's a party happening, and people are talking, and they're getting to know each other, and they're finding ways to do business together and learn from each other and things like that. If you choose not to be in the conversation, that's your choice. But I think it's too valuable, especially if you're going to grow your brand and your business, not to be in the conversation. So that's my argument for social media. You do need to know your goals and your brand. You can't just go out there and say, well, you can. I mean, you can go out there and just start blogging and just start, interacting in social media. And then sometimes you figure out, well, I want to do this for a living, or I want to turn this into a business, things like that. It helps if you go into it knowing that. A friend of mine did a blog, and she named it White Trash Mommy. And she wrote a book, and she's hilarious. I mean, this woman is hilarious. Well, that was hard to work with brands because they really didn't. I was like, maybe Las Vegas, tourism would support you or something. I don't know. I was like, it's hard. At that point, she had to change her brand. She had to rebrand everything because it was not a brand that other brands would want to work with, just based on the name or based on the quality of the content, or based on how she was using social media. So you do have to really know your goals and your brand. Why are you online? If you're just there to be in the conversation, that's fine, but just know that going into it. Just know why you're doing it, who you are, what you want your message to be. Do you want to be the person that's funny and snarky? Do you want to be the person that's providing helpful information? Because if you combine the two, people aren't always sure who you are. Yeah?
I was just going to say, I will support the same thing you said about the blog. It's especially important for blogging. Everybody thinks they need to be writing about something, but if you don't really set up, understand the niche you're writing to,
yes,
there's no point in having a blog. You come up with,
right,
all these posts that don't really relate to each other. You don't know how to market them to anybody.
Right, exactly. And there will be people that do that quite a bit, that will have, like this week they're writing about their kitten they just got, and the next week they're writing about how to use Twitter to make sales, and it was like, I don't understand that. So you do have to know who you are. You have to be kind of consistent. I would say in blogging especially, you have to be passionate about what you're writing about. Tiffany and I were on a TV show recently. We were talking about that you have to be passionate, because you can't write about it every day or a couple times a week or how often for as long as you possibly want it to go if you're not passionate. So if you're just trying to get out there and blog, sure, if you just want to practice your writing skills and nobody reads it and you're fine that just you and your mom maybe read it or whatever, that's fine. But if you want a bigger audience, a bigger community than that, then you do need to be consistent, things like that. What do you want people to know about you? Again, once you put it out there, you don't get to take it back. So don't talk about your boss on Facebook if if you don't want them to read it, because they very well could read it. In Twitter, you can have your tweets be protected. So you can just tweet with the people that you've approved, right? Well, you could say something terrible about your boss, and somebody just thought it was funny, and they retweet it, and now it's outside of your community. Now it's out there in the Twitterverse. So you have to be very conscious of what you want people to know about you. There have been jobs that have been lost, and there have been people that have, had some rough things happen to them because things got out. What do you want people to do? I knew going into building Girlfriendology, I started it as a blog. It was primarily because I actually, two of my friends had cancer, and I wanted to express how friendship was so important to me, and female friendship. And so I started to build this. But I knew, because I had a marketing background, that I wanted to do this and be able to market it. So I had to, make sure that it met a certain standard, that I would only work with certain companies. I had an adult diaper company that came to me and wanted to advertise on my site. I was like, no, I love your money, but it's not the feel-good brand I want on my site. You have to be able to turn some things down and say, this is not a good opportunity for me. This is not a good opportunity for my brand. And the same with, I had some diet ads that were really tacky and wanted to give me really good money to put it on my site. And I was like, as a girlfriend, I'm not going to tell you have to be on a diet. I'm going to be your friend no matter what. So again, I couldn't take their money. So you have to know, what do you want people to do? What do you want companies to do? What's your objective for being out there? So that's really important. And sometimes that evolves, but okay, and building your community, because it's all about building community. And when I say community, I mean, it could be your blog audience, it could be your social media audience, it could be your Twitter followers or your Facebook friends. It's building your online community. I kind of embrace all of those together. Again, social media, the world of social media expects community now. We expect to have dialogue. We expect to have access. We expect, if someone DMs me, they expect me probably to DM them back. So we have those expectations now, and it's out there, but that builds the community. If there was somebody that was supposed to be here today, and she and I started tweeting together yesterday, and she can't be here now. And now we're DMing, and we want to make plans to get together sometime, and have never met her, but I followed her because of yesterday's, some of the comments. So you expect that level of conversation now. Again, my term for community is blogs, online communities, social media, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. That's all your community. And if you stop and think about it, you probably have a pretty large community, because you start to think about your friends, and like in LinkedIn, your friend, your contacts, your connections, their friends. I mean, you have a reach out there into building a community. You do need to have dialogue, and we expect people to respond now. Exactly, there's so many cases that we could talk about of brands that did not respond. There's a long example. I'll give the short version of it. Motrin did a commercial that they put online about wearing your baby in a sling. And sometimes women like to wear them in the front. They like to wear them in the back. They would, and they made this kind of thing. And then sometimes your back hurts after you carried your baby around all day. Well, a mom got upset and said, this is very flippant and it's kind of making fun of moms or something like that. So there became this like Twitter storm that went on over a weekend. They called it Motrin Moms, and they got mad. And it was one of the top trending topics, and they all were mad at Motrin. Well, nobody at Motrin or their PR company was manning Twitter that weekend. And it just went crazy. It just went crazy. And then on Sunday night, somebody must have figured it out, and they went and they pulled the site down. I mean, there's that power because we expect brands to respond. We expect to have that dialogue. They could have nipped it in the bud at the beginning and said, hey, you know what? We had a research group of moms who did not find this offensive, and we never would mean to offend you moms. We love that you want to have your babies new. I mean, they could have stopped it early on, but they weren't in dialogue. They weren't listening. So that's really important, and I don't mean to like scare people with that example, but you do. You have to know what's going on out there. And it does need to be consistent, and it needs to be frequent. If you blog or you tweet like once a week or once a month or something, you're not getting community. You're not going to do that. People don't love you that much that they're going to hang out and wait on that. Sure, if you're like a rock star, maybe they'll just wait for that tweet or that update. But it needs to be consistent, it needs to be frequent. If that's your goal, if your goal is to build community, you need to make that conversation keep going and continue to do that on a consistent and frequent basis. I think, again, Tiffany, we were talking about before about how often people need to blog, and that depends on, the subject, the goals of the blog and things like that. But the more often you do, the more often your audience has an opportunity to connect with you and learn from you and come back to your blog for a reason, because there's something new. So you do need to be consistent and frequent. Yeah?
I have a question. What if you do sort of in-depth topics in your blog where the frequency is going to be much less, like say once a week or once every 2 weeks, because the subject matter that you're writing on is much more complex? What if you use different platforms? So say in your blog you have a direct link to your Twitter account, which you update multiple times a day, that gives you maybe links, personal insight into your life, so you also have that separation from your blog and yourself, and are getting your readership some kind of activity on the side.
I think that's great, because from knowing a little bit about what you're doing and stuff, I can see where you do some big blogs and some big research and things like that. I might break those out into part A, B, or C and have those 3 times during the week, or have the first part, then the second, then the third, just to give them some frequency in it, or just establish that that the blog's going to come out on Monday and it's going to be awesome, and that's our day to publish. And then keep watching our Twitter stream for updates throughout the week. Communicate what your schedule is going to be and your frequency, just so that people understand that. People like to know, like I used to do something that was like, people do Wordless Wednesday sometimes on their blogs. And what they'll do is just take a picture that has something to do with whatever their subject matter is, and they may not even write anything about it, or they may just write a few lines. But it just gives you some reason to throw something new up there and to say, this is further continuing my brand. It's just a picture. Or have Fridays, do your top 10. Or have a schedule so that people know. There are actually some plugins that will help you with an editorial calendar for your blog, so that you can keep a schedule and know exactly what's coming out and when. I have my schedule for like the next couple weeks of when I'm doing certain updates, when I have meetings, and all kinds of things. I have like at least 5 updates a day that I already have programmed, so I have to schedule it. So if they know that there's going to be communication, they'll come back and look for it. But that's a good question. Anything else? Any other questions? Okay. Get to know your community. This one I'm real passionate about also, because you do need to ask questions, you do need to observe. I put a survey out to my audience and I said, where do you interact with Girlfriendology? Is it on our website? Is it in our community? Is it on Facebook? Is it on Twitter? I wanted to know, and I asked them some other questions about, you know, their involvement with Girlfriendology, other things that they, you know, would be helpful for me to know. And I was shocked at how many people said, I connect with you on Facebook, more than they connect with me on my website. So on my Facebook page for Girlfriendology, they're there more often than they go to my blog, which that means I need to put the time and effort into where they are. Prior to that survey, I was spending a lot of my time building up my Twitter followers, and that's awesome. Some of them are, you know, are in my community, but the majority of my community is on Facebook, because women are on Facebook. They're there and they're hanging out and they're talking on Facebook. So get to know them, ask questions, ask the survey. Identify any leaders or ambassadors. A lot of people will refer to them as brand ambassadors. So if you find somebody like, I know Lynn Gassner will retweet anything I tweet because she loves Girlfriendology, you know, and you know who those people are, reward them. You know, send her a DM and say, I just want you to know I really appreciate that you do this. You know, and by the way, you know, I have these bumper stickers that, you know, have Girlfriendology on them or whatever. If you want ones, give me your address and I'll send it to you. Reward them. Acknowledge that they're there. Thank them for their comments. Even if they're like snarky or offering like rude comments, but they keep coming back, get them in dialogue. You might be able to like sway them the other way and they can become your biggest fan. So identify who they are, ask and listen, reward them. There are a lot of brands that if you want to work with a brand, go comment on their blog, go tweet them, retweet some of their stuff. You'll get in front of them and then they'll start to notice what you're doing. So that's a great way to monetize your blog, is find some brands to work with. And that's the way to do it, is just start that dialogue, offer them some suggestions, or, you know, God forbid, like, hey, just, you know, there's a typo on your homepage, whatever, you know, whatever you can do just to kind of help them out. But get to know the people that are in your community. And again, I did the survey and it really helped me. And I was just shocked. I didn't offer them anything for taking the survey. I'm just like, do you mind? It's only 3 questions, whatever. Got some great information. Find out where they are and then go there. I sometimes get in trouble for this one, and that's why I always have to do it, because I love it. I believe in what the hell marketing. You know, it's just like, try things. If it works, great. If it doesn't, you move on. Where was I just at? Oh, I was at a New Media Cincinnati meeting, and one of the guys said, if you haven't failed in social media, you haven't tried. I mean, you have such an opportunity to try all kinds of things, and if it works, great. If it didn't, move on. It's not that big of a deal. I did a thing on Girlfriendology. I did an online book club. So once a month, I'd say, on Monday night, we're going to meet on this page on the site. We're going to talk about this book. Well, I got like a mediocre response. And I let it go for like 6 months, and then I'm like, you know what? It's over. It wasn't getting that much traffic. It wasn't doing anything really for me. It stressed me out that there aren't as many people there as I wanted. I'm like, you know what? What the hell, move on. Try something else. So just try things. Just try things and see what other people are doing and try what they're doing. Take your own kind of take on whatever, but just try some things. It's, you know, that's what's the great thing about social media. You can try all this stuff. Grow and manage your community. Apply the lessons that you've learned. Get to know, you know, your community, and just continue to do what works. If it works, great. I will tell you, I use Facebook ads right now. I do like $10 a day, just because I want my brand to go out to a different community. I will interview people on my Blog Talk Radio show, or interview them on videos when we're together and things like that, because I know then my brand goes out to their community and that grows my community. So just look for ways to reach out and grab other people that might be welcomed in your community or might want to know about your community. Again, consistent communications. I have a weekly newsletter. I do it through FeedBlitz. It takes my blogs, it puts them all into a newsletter. I don't even have to do anything. It goes out once a week. And it just reminds them, yeah.
What did you say?
FeedBlitz.
Can we spell that?
Sure, it's FeedBlitz.com. And It's a premium version of FeedBurner. It takes your RSS and it does all kinds of social media stuff and all this. And it is paid, but it's well worth it. And it was cheaper than doing my Constant Contact. So that's my Feed Blitz commercial. I love Feed Blitz. But I do consistent communications. My newsletter goes out once a week. And I tried the everyday, just the RSS, and people didn't want it. My community didn't. Some communities do. Some people want the news the next day. Get to know your community and give them the information that you want. But you have to stay in touch with them. It's like, somebody told me once, it was like, nobody but your mother is going to come to your site uninvited all the time, They just have a lot of other sites to go to. So invite them back. Stay in contact with them. Make that communication. Ask questions of them. A lot of times I will put questions on my Facebook page for Girlfriendology, and it'll be like, hey, what's your favorite chick flick? That was like my biggest day. All these women are writing in their favorite movies. And then I made a blog post about it, and I get more traffic off that blog post than any other blog post. I mean, it's bizarre. So ask questions. You never know. Your audience may be looking for something else that you didn't even think of. Ask them. Or ask them what book they're reading right now, if that's your community, or what's their favorite thing to do downtown, or whatever. Ask them and get them involved. They'll come back to see if their answer was the top one. They'll come back just to see if, if other people thought the same thing or if other people had other ideas. So ask questions, get in the dialogue. Continue to readjust. Again, if you are, going in one direction and it's not working, go in another direction. It's okay. See what else you can do to kind of tweak your path and just figure it out. I want to give you some of the tools I use to manage my community because, again, like I showed, I have, this is my schedule for next week. I post an inspirational quote because women like those, and women will like those on Facebook, and then that takes my brand out and it shows it to their community. So whatever your community likes, does your community like quotes? Do they like news updates? I have a friend in her office, they're all female, and every day at lunch, they get their lunch and they go get on Facebook. That's what they do every day at lunch. So every day at lunch for women, because women get on during lunch a lot of times, I post an inspiring or funny female-friendly blog or video. So if you're just like hanging out and you're just killing time over lunch, go to Girlfriendology on Facebook and there'll be something funny or inspiring or whatever. So by getting to know their schedule, by getting to know what they like, getting to know what they comment about, do more of it. The information about people checking their Facebook account first thing in the morning, I now put my first quote of the day. I use Hootsuite, but you can also pre-schedule it in TweetDeck. TweetDeck has been kind of buggy for me lately. It freezes every once in a while, and so I prefer Hootsuite, and I just use the free version of it. But every day I have programmed an inspiring quote to be posted at 5:30 in the morning. So there's not a lot of people posting around that time. So if people are getting on their Facebook on their phone before they get out of bed, there's my inspiring quote and they'll like it. And then it goes out to their community. So find out what their schedule is and kind of go with that. Yeah?
I found the same thing. It's actually kind of like a fun talked about topic on Facebook is to know when to update.
Yeah.
You always know when somebody's paying somebody to update their Facebook because it's between 9 and 5 and
yeah.
that's about it.
Yeah.
Or if somebody's really passionate about it, then they're doing it in the evening or they're paying attention
right.
to when their other consumers are actually checking their own Facebook.
Yeah, that's great. That's really timely. I just attended an online seminar this week that HubSpot did, and it was all based on the timing, and it was excellent because it was like, if you want your blogs to be read, post them early in the morning because most people read blogs early in the morning. If you want things on Facebook liked or sent on, people get on the weekends. They're really high on comments on the weekends. And so, right, post them at different times. Plus, you've got different time zones to think about. Where's your community at? My doing my lunch thing is I based on the East Coast. And actually in HubSpot, they had the population based on the time zone. And it was definitely East Coast. And then I think it was Central and Mountain and Pacific were way down there, which kind of surprised me. So I based mine on East Coast because that had the majority of the population. Plus, that's authentic to who I am and where I live. But I put that out. I put out this was like my big aha, and I tell people this because I just was so proud of myself for thinking of it. I have 1,300 blog posts because I've been doing this for 5 years. And, you know, you have these good, I think there's some decent content in the back, you know, back lot the last couple years. So I go and every day I post a Girlfriendology classic. And I post, you know, here's a little like teaser, and there's the link to that blog, and it sends people to blog posts that would have never gone there. And then they kind of find their way around and they get involved. So find ways to repurpose your content, find ways to keep it fresh, find ways to keep them coming back. And one thing I also try to do is in the majority of my tweets and my Facebook updates have a link back to my site. So I may put in an inspiring quote, but I will find a blog post that has something to do with that. If that's on hope, then I find a blog post that has hope and then I link to it. Because I want to take them back to my site. That's where I can monetize them. That's where I can show my brands I work with, what my traffic is. So I want to take them back there. So if you tweet and things like that, make sure you have links in there, because otherwise you're great and they're listening and they think you're fun, but you're not sometimes getting things from it. I'm sorry.
Do you hyperlink back to relevant posts and
Yeah.
other blogs in your new content as well?
Do I, excuse me?
Hyperlink back to older blog posts that may be relevant to something you just published?
Oh yeah.
Do you do that
Oh
often
yeah.
as well?
Yeah, I try to do that. And there's also a plugin in WordPress that's not very good actually. But it will give you like 3 posts. If you like this one, then you're gonna like these 3 other posts. And I can look it up if you have a question on that, because I have it. So I do try to, in my blog post, link to anything else that I've done previously that I think is relevant and will keep them involved in my site. Yeah.
I was just going to say, so we talked about the timing of Facebook posts and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. I couple that with my website analytics.
Mm-hmm.
I work with a law firm, and so people are really on their site on the weekdays, so I'm always
Mm-hmm.
trying and generate stuff on the weekdays and then set goals for weekends to up traffic like that. So
Uh-huh.
if you do web analytics as well, it's great to look at that, and that's a great way
That's
to
a great point, yeah.
understand the community that's already interacting with your site.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And again, scheduling updates, just because you'll go crazy if you're trying to be online all the time and trying to, you know, keep something going out there. I'm like panicking because I don't have a video posted for today, I think. I'm not sure. I have to check on my little sheet. And so it's like, I have to do this because they come to my site expecting it. So if you can schedule it, if you find systems that work for you, I definitely use some of these tools. There are other tools out there. One of the things they talked about in the HubSpot thing was tweetwhen.com. And that will tell you at what time of the day your tweets are retweeted. And there's another graphic that will give you some other information, I'm not sure. But again, it's a free service. So you can start to study when people are doing things. On Facebook, a lot of times I'll see what kind of updates, or on blog post, what kind of blog post, get comments, get feedback, and then do more like that, or do something else that ties into that. So